So, this last part will be short and sweet, and then we'll get into the good stuff that I imagine many people are waiting for. So, let's get ready to rumble in just another moment. We've gone through the hard parts, and we're almost back at the fun part of playing the game with an increased sense of clarity. Before we do so, though, let's make sure that we are most ready to execute our knowledge and wisdom at the table by doing what we can while we are off the table to increase those chances of success. Uh, Physical preparedness, sleep, diet, exercise, and autonomic nervous system. These are different aspects of our physicality, our biology that they have like I would say kind of for this section, these are just meant to sort of pepper in general understandings of things that I myself and I know many other top players use to their advantage for sake of improving performance and being able to use all the stuff we've talked about in a very coherent way. Coherence is a big idea for me, as we will get into here in a moment. But really, it's about taking your knowledge and being able to use it as effectively as possible. So, uh, sleep, diet, and exercise, I think, are somewhat self-explanatory. The idea of autonomic nervous system, uh, you know, getting into fight or flight is a challenge many players have, and you see it all the time. You yourself may have experienced it. I know a lot of my students have experienced it, where you're dealing with this aspect of increased heart rate. And no one is really safe from this. It can happen at any time. We are all human. And if you get caught off guard, or if you're not prepared for whatever reason, in a big moment, your body might not obey your mind. So this is one of the reasons that I myself like to do cold immersion. I like to do breath work and meditation because they really help that aspect of controlling the body and making it subservient to the mind so that it understands its place and the mind reigns supreme and you use your will and your focus and your mental resilience to drive your success at the table and elsewhere. Self control, emotional intelligence, self reflection, acceptance, and inner peace. I would say tilt control is kind of like a Zen thing, understanding that, sometimes you'll win, sometimes you'll lose. Doing your best to recover from tough beats or, misplaying hands, and understanding that it's just part of the game. I honestly think that one of my greatest strengths, and I do mean this seriously, is that I'm a good loser. Like when I lose, I've really worked hard on taking it in stride, and I strongly encourage everybody to do just that. If you just take for a moment the in the money percentage of even the best tournament players, let's just say the absolute highest level, you cash a tournament 25% of the time. That's very high. That means that you're losing 75% of the time. If you're not prepared to deal with it effectively, then three-quarters of the time you're going to be kind of shooting yourself in your own foot, and you already know it's coming. Like it's just the nature of the game. We're going to lose more often than we win in tournaments. That's just how it goes. Um, so yeah, having the emotional intelligence to accept those losses, be kind to yourself, reflect on what you can to be better next time. Being honest with yourself, it's a huge part of poker. So many lessons are revealed to us by the ways that we played hands, just generally our experiences, whether or not we, sort of trusted ourselves in big moments, and how well we were able to take our knowledge from off the table study and practically implement it. And then lastly, just kind of combining all of these and having an inner peace and an equanimity. The more we have that, the better off we are. Mental clarity and intuition, meditation, willpower, heart coherence, and trust. So meditation we touched on, it also has physical benefits, but I would say that all of these are kind of wrapped up into one. And the idea of coherence here is a big one to me, allowing your brain and your heart to function as one and having that coherence so that you're not having inner turmoil between, you know, your brain wants to do this and your heart wants to do that. And even maybe quantifying what it means to have that might seem a little bit overwhelming, but just planting that seed of understanding and knowing that it is possible to have that inner coherence is more than enough to get going with it. And as you continue to play poker, These experiences will just naturally come to you. I'm a very big believer in the effectiveness of having coherence in oneself. It's a huge part of what I think makes me successful. You kind of have all cylinders firing, and you're using all of your biological, mental capacities to your advantage. So, just something to consider. And lastly, I'll say with trust, trusting yourself in big spots, it's very useful to not constantly be doubting. There's many cases in poker where you don't necessarily know why you feel a certain way, but once you've developed these frameworks and you're letting your intuition run through them and pick out the most relevant aspects of things, it will do that for you. There will be cases where you're heavily focused on, a certain part of your opponent's range, and it might be because of the muscle memory that you've developed and the understanding, having studied and played a lot of hours, when you just know, like, that's just very likely what's happening. Now, the downside to this is if it's not coming from experience and it's coming from a bias where you're hoping for something and it's like a sort of wishful thinking. And there's a distinct difference there. And the more you quiet your mind and really be honest with yourself, the more you can tell the difference between these things. And then lastly here, logic and critical thinking, deductive reasoning. This is very much a part of hand reading and strategy. Adjusting our strategies on the fly, understanding where the applicability of the models will be useful to us, or where we have to, modify based on the way our opponent is playing, which is going to be almost every situation, to be honest with you. It's rare that our opponents will one-to-one follow any simulation, and it's also the nature of simulations that they, in many cases, are not going to match up one-to-one with reality, because we're just looking to get a glimpse into what is happening in the inner workings of the deck, as opposed to having a full-on understanding of what is happening overall in all of the scenarios. We just don't have the technological capability yet to input all those variables. Knowledge, which we've gone over here quite a bit, and truth, which is really the goal with all of this, is to be able to discern more accurately what is happening at the table. So, final words. Thanks for watching along with me. I sincerely hope I was able to increase your understanding of the game of poker, specifically No Limit Hold'em, as it pertains to the tournament format. And although these ideas can be applied much more broadly, I think that, for tournaments especially, they are quite useful. I want to reiterate that while these building blocks for success are very helpful and will get you on the right track, that ultimately the relativity, nuance, and uniqueness of the game of poker, much like life, eventually lead us to a place where these frameworks will become self-evident, such as the nature of reality. We have to learn kind of the rules, so to speak, to eventually discard them. I say this because, as it has been said before and will be said again, all models are wrong, though some are useful. And I believe that this is one of the most useful models, much like the simulations that we provide at Octopi Poker. Thanks again for being here and sharing in this journey with me, and best of luck at the tables.